what can we possibly expect from a relationship with China? How can we normalize relationships when there's this huge glaring issue of my father's imprisonment that we will never normalize? We will never normalize a British citizen who is in these horrible conditions that he's in for standing up for what is right. That is something that is unacceptable.
Hong Kong's most high-profile China critic, the British media tycoon Jimmy Lai, has been sentenced to 20 years in prison. Now, this ends Hong Kong's biggest national security trial and is prompting international concern over the erosion of freedoms in China. Jimmy Lai is 78. He's a pro-democracy campaigner, as you know. He was convicted on 2 counts of conspiring to collude with foreign forces and 1 count of publishing seditious materials. Now, he denied all the charges, telling the court he's a political prisoner facing persecution. The Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has described that 20-year sentence as tantamount to a life sentence. Well, Sebastien Lai is Jimmy Lai's son. Sebastien, this must be exceptionally tough for you. How are you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was expected, but it makes it no less heartbreaking and devastating. I think there was a moment of sort of a bittersweet moment, I should say, when they passed the sentence, and my father was stoic. Here's a man who's given all he can to his beliefs. He was stoic, and he even flashed a smile. In almost like a little act of rebellion. He wasn't going to show any sadness. And in some sense, we knew that this was going to happen. He knew that it was going to happen even 30 years ago when he first started campaigning for democracy, that this was a very high possibility. But he did so regardless because it was the right thing to do.
Now, I know for you and for the rest of your family, Sebastien, this is a deeply personal family story and something you are incredibly closely connected to. I suppose for the rest of us, the fate of your father might be seen as, let's be honest, another failure of Keir Starmer's leadership. He was in China, he was supposed to make the case for your father, and the result is a 20-year prison sentence. What would you say about that?
Like many people have called out for my father's release. The Prime Minister said that he mentioned it to Xi Jinping, and this is an opportunity because, as we get closer relationships with China, issues like my father's case can be raised. He said that it's a priority, and I am inclined to believe him. But look, this is a test. This is a litmus test because we gave a trip away and an embassy away to China, and we haven't really seen anything come back to this nation. And if they're not even willing to put a 78-year-old man on a plane whose business they've taken away, health they destroyed, then what can we possibly expect from a relationship with China? How can we normalize relationships when there's this huge glaring issue of my father's imprisonment that we will never normalize? We will never normalize a British citizen who is in these horrible conditions that he's in for standing up for what is right. That is something that is unacceptable.
But you are content that the Prime Minister did what he promised and did raise the issue of your father's confinement?
No, obviously I'm not content.
I'm saying, do you believe that he did indeed do it, at least?
Yeah, I mean, he said in Parliament, I think that he did do it. I think again, it's a real test for the government. I think time will tell whether that was the right thing or wrong thing to do. And obviously, I don't think that he should have gone over until my father was out. But if the belief is that by going over, cases like these can be raised, which is what he said, then we'll have to wait and see. But multiple world leaders have also gone over and mentioned my father's name. I think this is a case now where there's global attention and people see how cruel it is. People are very touched by my father's story, and I think what's happening to him is a perfect example of how Hong Kong's rule of law has been destroyed and how cruel and vindictive that government is.
Perhaps it's just worth reminding people what he was found guilty of. What are these national security offences?
Sure. So the national security law was passed at the end of 2020. It was widely seen as incredibly draconian. Essentially, even speaking to you right now, criticizing the Hong Kong government, I could be found guilty of the national security law, even if I do so in the United Kingdom. So my father got charged with a collusion with foreign forces, which in his case he got 20 years for. But look, I think it's interesting to look into this, right? Because collusion necessitates some benefit. And after 5 years of arresting my father, after allegations of tortured witnesses, after a kangaroo court, what they have found was that the benefit that my father would have had in campaigning for democracy was democracy. Big reveal. It's one vote, and the knowledge that with his life, with his work, he made Hong Kong a freer and better place. So it's an absolute insane charge, and I mean, the whole 5 years has been, many of these kind of moments where they're essentially sending all these highly trained lawyers to do a job that anyone can do. They've destroyed their legal system.
Yeah, I should say I've just been handed a press release which outlines a press statement from the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The statement says the Hong Kong High Court's decision to sentence Jimmy Lai to 20 years is an unjust and tragic conclusion to the case. It shows the world that Beijing will go to extraordinary lengths to silence those who advocate fundamental freedoms in Hong Kong. After enduring a trial lasting 2 years and detention in prison for more than 5, Mr. Lai and his family have suffered enough. The US urges the authorities to grant Mr. Lai humanitarian parole. Do you think that might lead somewhere, Sebastien?
Yeah, I think international pressure is crucial if we're ever going to see my father again. And we're so incredibly grateful for the support of both Secretary of State Rubio and also the President Trump. Look, it's as I said, it's gotten to a place where many people view my father as a hero. Many people view what's happening to him as extremely cruel, and more importantly, extremely unnecessary from the Hong Kong and Chinese government. In the 5 years they found nothing, and all they've done is nearly killed this man. And so it's not only the humane thing to do to send him back to the UK, it's also the rational thing to do.
We know that his health is not brilliant. He is nearly 80. Do you have any idea what his current state of health is? I took your point earlier that you were encouraged by his slightly defiant demeanour at sentencing, but what else do you know about how he is?
So my father's health has deteriorated massively over the last few years. In fact, my sister, who recently left Hong Kong to campaign on his behalf as well, has said that throughout the last 5 years you see this man slowly deteriorating. Over the last year alone, he's lost 10 kilos. For context, he's being kept in solitary confinement this whole time. So 14 days is prolonged solitary confinement. He's been kept in solitary confinement for 1,800 days. And that has obviously very clear mental tools, but also clear physical tools. So he now has heart issues. There's times when his fingernail fall off, when his teeth are rotting. And in the summer, in that little cell of his that measure maybe 60 square feet, where natural light is blocked off, it goes up to 30 degrees, 30, 40 degrees Celsius. And so essentially bakes in there. It's heartbreaking and unnecessarily cruel.
So Britain has said it's going to carry on doing what it can. Yvette Cooper says the British government intends to rapidly engage further with Beijing. Marco Rubio is also calling for your father to be released. The plain fact is that the Chinese authorities don't appear to care very much at all what Western governments think. Isn't that right?
No, I don't think that's right. I mean, Hong Kong still says that it has the rule of law, not because it's a nice thing for them to say. They say that because Hong Kong's a financial center. It's still based on the trust that contracts will be honored, the law will be respected, that you will get a fair trial. And by doing what they're doing to my father, they're destroying that. They essentially weaponized this legal system that for decades on end had this incredible reputation, and so they do still care. They do still care how the international community think, and especially in a case where they've shown such cruelty publicly, they still care. And I think releasing my father at this point will be directly beneficial to both Hong Kong and China.
I'm really interested and encouraged by the fact that you haven't entirely given up hope. I wonder whether, though, he might be released but then told that he mustn't ever speak out of turn. Would he ever accept a release on those terms, that perhaps he comes to live in Britain but is never allowed to speak in public about the fate of Hong Kong again?
I obviously I can't speak on his behalf, but he's a man who's given everything that he has for freedom and liberty. I think someone who's spent so much of his life campaigning for the freedom of others deserves some freedom himself.
Thank you very much indeed for your time. It must be an incredibly difficult time for you and indeed for the rest of your family. That is Sebastien Lai, who's the son of Jimmy Lai, sentenced to 20 years in prison.